The first encounter, the first time I paid attention, I think, because I'd been to Mass before, and I just kind of dismissed everything up to that point. But the time that I had that conversion, when I realized the true presence of Christ in the Eucharist, the desire that stirred up inside of me was something that I had never really felt that intensely before. I had desired a relationship with the Lord, but in the presence of Jesus in the Eucharist, it was more concentrated, it was more intense. And so in my mind, I was kind of doing some gymnastics. Like, I either have to kind of let go of what I've thought about Catholicism and be willing to kind of sell myself out just for that, or I got to figure out a way that I can get Holy Communion and still keep my comfortable kind of Baptist life. And it's not that I was attached to the Southern Baptist denomination per se. It was just an idea of, I know what I know, and what I don't know is making me uncomfortable kind of thing. So that self-reliance that kind of says, don't stretch yourself too much, was really the motivating factor, I think, for me to try to, manipulate the situation so that I could receive Holy Communion. Now, the truth is, nobody in that church would have known any different if I'd have just gone up for communion. Even if I went up and did it wrong, they still would have been like, oh, okay, whatever, So there was something that was keeping me from doing that. And yet there was also something inside of me that said, try to work it to your advantage so that you can have your comfortable experience of, Protestantism and Catholic communion. And so that's why I called the priest, because it never hurts to ask, right? And when Father said you have to really be fully into the church, you have to really commit to this life, I was bummed out a little bit, but I also was like, okay, I'm willing to do whatever I have to do to be able to receive Jesus in the Eucharist. I had no idea what all that meant. I didn't realize that it meant that I was going to stand up in front of hundreds of people on the Easter Vigil night and proclaim that I believe that everything that the church teaches is inspired and true, and that's how I was going to practice my life from that moment. I was just seeing the Eucharist as kind of a prize, and I was willing to do whatever I could to receive that, to gain that prize. The beauty of it is, the Eucharist is a prize. It's a great privilege, but with the Eucharist comes everything else. It's everything. In the Blessed Sacrament, in the Eucharist, we have the fullness of the expression of Christianity. And the beauty of that is that even the little bits that I don't necessarily understand, even now as a priest, there's some theological things that I maybe haven't thought about yet, or maybe I haven't really encountered a reason to think about. Those are all in the Eucharist. And the unity of the church is in the Eucharist, and the tradition of the church is in the Eucharist, and the past is there, and the present is there, and the future is there. So the great gift that it is for us, it's not just about I go to Mass and I get communion. I go to Mass to worship God. And if I'm prepared, then I get to receive His presence into my body. And that's worth anything. There's nothing more valuable than that. Receiving Holy Communion is a privilege. It's not a right that we have. And I think a lot of people, well, I don't think this, I know it, because I've literally had people tell me this. The reason I go to Mass is to receive Holy Communion. Well, that's not the reason we go to Mass. The reason we go to Mass is to orient our hearts towards the worship of God, to pour ourselves out because He's poured Himself out, to receive grace from Him in those moments. And we do that interiorly first. We prepare ourselves first by becoming familiar with what's going to happen. I don't mean memorizing or anything like that. Just, I know that Something is going to happen that's different than what I experience in every other aspect of my life. And a lot of folks in my experience that just kind of go through the motions of that aren't connecting with the otherness of our worship. And so the question is, well, okay, I believe that Jesus is truly present in the Eucharist. I'm not in a spot of complete communion with the Catholic Church. And yet there are people that are going to communion that maybe they're not in a state of grace. We really shouldn't be judging that. Like, only God can judge that, right? Unless, like we have some kind of special knowledge of that. People aren't in a state of grace. People aren't prepared. People are going up to receive Holy Communion chewing gum, or they haven't made the fast, or they just go through the motions. Why is it okay for them to do that? And I have to sit back and I have to watch when the longing of my heart is that intimate communion with the Lord. We have to be willing to give up whatever we have to give up for that pearl of great price. And those of us that are converts understand that pretty well, because a lot of people have had to walk away from the security of a ministry, the security of family, the comfort of a life dedicated to service to the gospel and to our brothers and sisters in the Lord, to seek after the fullness of faith. And that's the key right there. It's about the fullness of faith. One of the things that I like to tell people when they, I'm a pastor, I get complaints about all kinds of stuff, and, sometimes people will say, well, Father, you preached about sin again, and, we need to go to confession first. And, this person came up to communion, and I know, Father, that and I stop them and I say, you know what? Last time I checked, you're not God, and I'm not either. And so we got to be really careful of watching what everybody else is doing, because it's not about what everybody else is doing in that moment. It's about what the Lord is doing in me. And one of the great things that Mother Church gives us for those situations, if I'm not able to receive communion, either because I'm not fully in union with the church, but I desire it, or I'm not in union because of some sin that I'm struggling with right now that I haven't had an opportunity to confess or to break away from, she gives us a spiritual communion, an opportunity to go to the Lord spiritually and invite him in and to say, take up your rightful place in my life. I believe that you are truly present in the Blessed Sacrament. And although I cannot now receive you, I invite you to come spiritually to me. I love you, Jesus, with all my heart. I'm sorry for ever having offended you. Never permit me to offend you again. Grant that I may love you always, and then do with me what you will. That right there will be a bridge that will soften your heart, and it will help kind of catapult you into that place where you're ready to receive him. And take the time that it takes, and frankly, don't worry about the people that are doing it that don't get it. Pray for them. Pray that their hearts will be open, and pray that God would allow you to receive the graces that you need in these moments through those spiritual communions, being present at Mass, offering everything that you can offer as you can offer it in worship, because that's what's going to kind of lead you to that deeper communion with him.